I made myself cry. Thank you for being here. In 2001, I asked my grandma Dottie to participate in a video project I was creating called Living Legends. The goal was to capture the voices of the people in my village. I sat Grandma down and asked her questions. I wanted to know about her whole life, starting from the beginning. This is the life of Dorothy Louise Sargent Spike. Memorials bring people together to share stories. It's also a time to learn about someone's whole life. Dottie was a wife, a mother, a stepmother, grandmother, great-grandmother, second mom to her kids' friends, and a friend. I'm not the oldest grandchild or the youngest. I'm the grandchild who asked the questions and got the answers. Over the last 10 years, my husband Jeff would come with me to visit Sacramento and leave with Grandma's old photo albums and VHS tapes to scan and digitize. I am the grandchild who is the keeper of her stories. I'm going to highlight the major phases from the early years, motherhood, and the grandma years. Dottie in the early years, born July 20th, 1929 in Omaha, Nebraska to Glenn and Gretchen Hupp. When Dottie was a teenager, her parents and younger sister Mildred moved to California. Dottie's mom made the kids clothes. If Dottie saw a dress she liked in a store window, she'd draw a picture and her mom would make it. In 7th grade, she got her very first kiss from a boy, and he was cute, and then he ran away. She was elected by her class to be the fire guard. Dottie got her first job at a dime store at the age of 13 or 14 because she fibbed by saying that she was the legal age of 16. She later worked for Walgreens, where they served meals. Her nickname was Hoppy because she moved around so fast. Dottie graduated from high school at 16. She wanted to be a teacher or a librarian. She loved learning. Dottie's childhood years ended and she became an adult. Dottie in the mothering years. In 1946, she met Bill Sargent through a mutual friend at the age of 17. They dated for 8 months and got married later that same year. Dottie described marriage as interesting and fun. Dottie was a city girl trying to adapt to farm life. She loved to plant and grow flowers that would beautify the yard. They had 4 children, 3 daughters and 1 son, Lena, Diane, Terry, and Billy. When one of the kids misbehaved, they had to sit in a chair in the middle of the room as the other kids played around them. That was the punishment. Dottie was an avid reader and instilled that into her kids. One of the books she read to them at bedtime was Our Little Friend. She played with the kids and had fun raising them. She was a very involved mother and was intentional in teaching them guiding principles. The family grew up on a dairy farm. Even though they didn't have a lot of money, Dottie believed in being clean and having good manners. She made sure the kids had clothes, not too many clothes. She adjusted hand-me-downs to fit them. She taught the girls how to sew, just like how her mother taught her. The kids had 3 pairs of shoes, 1 for school, 1 for play, and 1 for church. Friends were always welcome in her home, especially Saturday afternoon and evening when families got together and had so much fun. Some of the lifelong friends that might remember this are Lena's best friend Joyce and all of Terry's friend group, now called the Old Bags. Dottie worked in a doctor's office and later she worked at the school cafeteria. There is a funny story about Dottie making apple crisp desserts for the students. It looked wonderful and delicious until it was discovered that she had used salt instead of sugar. Dottie wasn't able to go to college herself, but she instilled the need for education in her children. She saw that they received a Christian education at Armona Union Academy, Pacific Union College, and Loma Linda University. The kids grew up and started their own families. Dottie in the grandmothering years. In 1975, Dottie became a grandma for the first time when her only grandson, Jay, was born. Melody, Melody, Amanda, Charmin, Lindsay, and Allie followed. She divorced and moved to the Sacramento area in the early 80s. She supported herself by working as a manicurist. Dottie was also a volunteer for the Sacramento Police Department, helping with mugshots. She met and fell in love with Don Spike. They have spent the last 35 years of their lives loving each other. Dottie was a very involved grandma. She would get all the grandkids together to spend the night at her house. Don and Dottie would take them on trips to Apple Hill or to the mountains to play in the snow. When the grandkids were growing into their adolescent years, she did a video interview with each of them. Some love advice she liked to share was, it's better for the man to love the woman just a little bit more so that he would spoil her. Dottie was the matriarch of the family. She began a legacy of self-reliance and independence so her kids and grandkids would be free to make their own choices for the directions of their lives. Her love extended to her great-grandchildren, Sister Mildred and her family, and Don's kids and their families. Dottie died July 18, 2017, at the age of almost 88. Her eyes closed for the last time, listening to Don playing and singing her favorite country love songs. There are more stories about her early life, motherhood, and the grandma years. This was the life of Dorothy Louise Sargent Spike. It's been over 15 years since I sat Grandma Dottie down to ask her questions for my Living Legends video project. I wanted to know about her whole life, from the beginning all the way to the ending. I wanted to capture her voice, to capture her laughter, to capture her memories, and to capture the wisdom she wanted to pass on to all of us after she's gone. I'm the grandchild who had the honor to be the keeper of her stories. Now that she's gone, I get to be the one to help share her stories. I'm going to tell you some of Dottie's answers to the questions I asked her at the end of the interview. Hey, Grandma, what is the best lesson life has taught you? Integrity, honesty, having a good life, a good relationship with God helps. You may lose all your earthly things, but you will always have God. Hey, Grandma, how did you live your life? I've lived my life as good as I knew how. When you know better, I think you do better, and that's the way I tried to live it. Grandma, what life lesson do you have for your friends and family? Get close to God. Be ready. Grandma, how do you want your family to honor your life after you're gone when they miss you? People can plant a tree and name it Dottie. Memorials bring people together to share stories. It's a time to learn about someone's whole life. We want to hear the stories. We want to hear stories to know more about Dottie as a wife, a mother, a stepmother, a grandmother, a great-grandmother, second mom to her kids' friends, and a friend. For those of us who will continue to miss her after today, plant a tree and name it Dottie. Thank you.
I met Dottie at the Yellow Rose, and went there dancing and playing music there too. And I saw this pretty lady sitting there with her friend, another lady, and I asked her to dance. She says, "I don't dance." I said, "You will before the night's over." Well, we didn't dance another night. Dance that night. We sat and talked and talked about living in Nebraska, and how her dad hated to scoop the snow, so they moved out to California. And he was the first one to scoop out the alley so they could get out of the garage. And so anyway, they moved out here and they moved to Fresno area. And I fell in love with a wonderful woman. And I still love her. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jay. Hi, guys. Grandma. Ever since I was a baby, I remember having my grandma there. And when I grew up on the farm, we had a rope screen on an oak tree. It was so old that the tree had grown around the rope. And it was from when my mom and my Aunt Terry and my Aunt Lena and Uncle Billy used to swing on it. And ever since I was a kid, I remember her being there. I'm sorry, I'm unprepared. Can you guys hear me? And I just want to tell you that what a beautiful person she was and how she was always there for me. And she never, ever left me. She was always there. She was the one constant thing that I always had. And it's because of her that everything is possible for me. Everything, she instilled in me values and morals. And she taught me about the Lord. And she was so beautiful inside and out. And I just remember her my whole life being there for me. And I just want to tell you that I'm going to take these morals and values and continue them onwards and upwards.
Hi, I'm Mandy. Dottie's one of her granddaughters. Just one of them. I remember my grandma as being a sassy lassie. Yeah. And I was definitely one of the more difficult grandchildren that she had to deal with, but she never put up with my nonsense, and that, being a mother now, I can respect 100%. I think I've taken some of her values and I've instilled them in my children as well. Some memories that I have of her that are really fond is she and I both have a love of shoes. And when I would go over to her house, she had a makeup table and I would sit down and she would let me raid her Avon stash. And I would do my makeup, she would do my nails for me, she would let me wear her shoes and get all girly, and I would come out and I would show her my transformation. And another thing that I really appreciate about her is that she indulged our imaginations as grandkids. She would let us go into the apartment complex management building that she ran and let us pretend that we were the office manager, secretary, and stuff like that. So she let us have fun and play and be imaginative, and I appreciate her for that, and I love her, and we all miss her, and yeah, she was awesome. Thank you.
My mother, for those of you who know her, was a ferocious mama bear. She guarded over us, helping us to go the right path, or at least the path that she believed to be right. And she didn't hesitate to let you know if you were getting off course, I'll tell you. You know, she was very quick to bring us back into line. That was a little more difficult for some than for others of the siblings, but she could be counted on. I don't know how she got that backbone, but she just persevered with 4 of us. My mom used to use terms sometimes that were kind of new to us and unique to her. She would say things like, you know, when she was excited about something or we were excited and we talked to her about things, she would say, well, hachitalio, you know, hachitalio. And it was like we all knew that meant she was excited for us, you know. And she always made life exciting for us, even though we were dirt poor. We would ask her, well, what's for dinner? And usually by Friday night, dinner was an accumulation of all the leftovers we had had during the week. And rather than just say, oh, I'm throwing all the leftovers in a pan, she'd say, oh, well, tonight we're going to have slom-glom. And it was, we were all so excited that we were getting this gourmet delight. Slom-glom, yay! So she was very inventive and very encouraging. But one of the things that I will always remember about her, and most of the old bags will remember about her as well, are her big eyes. Those big eyes, when she was mad at you, or wanted to bring you into line and get your attention, her eyes would widen to the size of saucers, and you knew you'd better, you know, toe the line and get back on track. Well, when I was in 8th grade, I believe, I was involved in an old bag adventure and in throwing a pie at our 8th grade teacher's face. Well, you know, he was very good-natured and he took it just fine, and he just, he went to lunch and the principal said, what's that all over your tie? Oh, it's pie. Well, what were you having pie for lunch? And you know, what? How did you get pie? Oh, some of the girls threw a pie in my face. Well, the principal was outraged and called it a slap in the face to the teaching profession, which, granted, it was. But we were all called into the principal's office and expelled for 2 days because of this misadventure that we had. And everybody, you know, we were given the word that we were expelled, so we were all afraid of our parents or what was going to happen with our parents. And all of the old bags said, oh my God, Terry's going to get it the worst, you know. So when Mom came into the library to pick me up, her eyes were huge. And all of the old bags said, oh God, she's going to get it now. And I thought so too. So I went out to the car with her and dreading, you know, what she was going to tell me. And she got in there and she goes, I can't believe that you did this. I can't believe that you would throw a pie in your teacher's face. She says, I was so shocked when they called me and told me that. And then all of a sudden she burst out into laughter and said, oh my God, I have a child who helped throw a pie at her teacher's face. So, you know, and she made me feel like, yes, I would be punished for this because it was wrong. But I wasn't degraded. She didn't make me feel bad about myself for having been involved, you know. And that's kind of the way she operated too. We got what was coming to us, but we were loved and forgiven. So anyway, there are so many memories of my mom. She was very big on education, and she instilled in us the need to go on to college education and not wait around for Mr. Wright to ride in on his shining white horse. She said, no, you need to get it done yourself. You need to be able to have a way to support yourself and be financially stable. And she instilled that in us from the time that we were little. And we all followed through. We all had a trade or, education to support ourselves. So thank you, Mom. Love you. Miss you. And I'll be glad to be reunited with you in heaven someday.
Well, I want to kind of go through the years and pick out things that were fond memories. And one thing might seem like a small thing, but one of my earliest memories is when I was about 4 years old, and she would wash my hair. And I'd lay out on the kitchen counter. Can you guys hear me? I lay out on the kitchen counter and just to have my head hanging over the sink, and the feel of her washing my hair just felt so wonderful. And the way she used to dress us up really cute and comb our hair and groom us and everything. And my grandpa Hupp used to say, oh, the girls just smell so good all the time, They just smell so good. So she got a big compliment. And one thing that was before Terry came along, Lena and I, when we were like 4 and 5 years old, it was part of our daily routine. We'd play this little sneak game on my mom. And we would hide when it was time to eat lunch, and we'd come in from playing, and we would hide in the laundry room, and she'd go around pretending like she didn't know where we were just to make it fun for us, and we were so young or dumb or something that we actually thought she didn't know where we were. We did it every day, and we thought we were so smart getting away with something. And then she'd say, oh, where are they? Where are you? Oh, boy, gonna be hard finding you this time. So then she'd find us, she knew where we were all the time. And she'd go, oh, there you are. And we'd go, boo, and she'd pretend to be scared. And it was just really fun. I didn't figure out till I was older that she knew where we were the whole time. She was just making it fun for us. And then she would actually watch us while we were playing. She'd either watch from the kitchen window or she'd be right out there with us. And if we did anything, like get into an argument or anything like that, she would never let us argue very long. She'd be in there breaking it up or saying, trying to get us to make up. And she never let it get violent. And one thing she would say was, now you girls don't want to yell at each other and be mad, because it would make Jesus really sad to see you acting like that to each other. And she taught us who Jesus was, that he'd made us and cared about us and everything. And then she'd say, now remember what the Bible says, be ye kind one to another. So then we'd make up, and, it was a great tactic of hers, and she used it many times. And so then we'd say we were sorry to each other, and we'd say we're sorry to Jesus, you know. And, oh yeah, another thing, she used to involve us in her church work that she did. She taught children's classes. And at the time, they'd make these great big they called them picture rolls. Each week would have a picture of whatever the Bible story was about, and then underneath it would have the Bible verse. So she would go over those stories with us, and since she was already a church teacher, she'd let us help paste in the little pictures. We'd make a picture each week for each child, and then we'd learn our verses that went with it. And then at the end of the 12-week period for those studies, she'd have us get up in front of the whole church, the big people's church, and she'd turn each picture of the picture roll, and we couldn't read yet or nothing, but as soon as we saw the picture, she had taught us by the pictures, Lena and I would say our little Bible verse, 5, 6, 7, 8 words. And we knew them, and the whole church thought it was great. And we felt proud of ourselves and everything. So, everyone enjoyed her, not only for her involvement with the church, but just the kind of person that she was. And then when it came... she'd pray with us too until we just absolutely fell in love with Jesus. So then she told us that we were soon to have a baby sister, which was Terry. And before they arrived from the hospital, she'd sit us up on the couch right next to each other, and she'd say, "Well, I'm going to let you hold the baby, your baby sister." And so we'd sit there thinking, "Oh, what's it going to be like?" We were so excited. And she'd bring the baby and be right there, of course. But we got to hold Terry and look at her and everything. So that was a really happy experience. And sometimes if she had to go somewhere, she'd put Linda and I in charge of babysitting for Terry and Billy. And one time, I remember... he was crying, so I took him out of his crib, and I figured, well, he must have a dirty diaper or something like that. So I managed to change the diaper. I guess I was only about 6 years old. And, of course, they didn't have disposable diapers back then. It was the old cloth kind that you had to wash out in the toilet and all that. And I guess I didn't know how to do it completely, but after I changed him, I took the whole diaper that had BM and everything in it, and I put it all in the washing machine. I mean, I figured out that it needed to be clean. But when she got, BM and all, when she got home, she didn't bawl me out or nothing. She just praised me for trying to take care of it. She explained that the right way to do it. But I always laugh at that. And crazy. And then one night for some reason or other, I was sleeping out in the living room, not my normal bedroom. I was sleeping on the couch. And she had this dress hanging in the doorway outside her bedroom. And for some reason or other, I would wake up and I'd look at that dress, and I thought that it was a bear. I thought that dress was a bear, and it was going to come get me. So I'd run in there to her room, and I'd say, Mom, there's a bear out there, there's a bear. And she'd go out there, and she'd show me that it was just a dress there. But then every time she went back to her room, I thought it was going to turn into a bear again. I said, Mom, it's a bear. So she finally, after 3 or 4 times of that, she got tired of that. So she let me sleep. I guess Dad was gone that night or something, but she let me sleep in her bed so I'd feel safe. Well, I happened to have a nightmare that night that everybody was trying to get me to go to the bathroom so I could hurry up and go to this place all the family wanted to go. It was just a dream. But I knew for some reason I shouldn't go, in the dream. And then when I woke up, I had wet her bed. all over her and all over me, and it was the first time that Ann laughs that ever happened, but oh, that was terrible. And instead of yelling at me, she kind of went, oh, you know. And she cleaned it up and everything. I mean, I could tell she was almost going to get mad, but she did not get mad at me. She just tried to comfort me and put me in clean clothes. So that was really cool. And then, let's see. Okay. Oh, when we started school, we were about 6 or 7 years old or something. It was before they had invented leotards to keep your legs warm, and they wanted the girls to wear dresses back then to school. So she knew that our legs were going to get cold, so she actually had us wear long pants underneath our dresses, and that kept our legs warm. I think she started a trend because some of the other mothers started doing the same thing. And then, of course, it was modest when you hang upside down on the monkey bars, too. So that was something I remembered about her. And this is a different story. She made us feel secure because she always kept kind of a schedule, and she'd have us on the same routine practically every day so we'd know what to expect, and that way we wouldn't get anxious or nothing. And she'd leave notes, you know, if she had to be gone, and she'd say, well, I'm telling you, just big kids, just like I told the little kids, such and such that was going to happen and what we were supposed to do while she was gone. And her training was so good because she never really favored one child over the other. She made us feel equal, and she always found something to praise us for. But then, you know, like Terry said, she wouldn't let us get away with it either. And one time, I developed a disability when I was about 10 or 11 years old in my back, and I had physical therapy from 7th to 10th grade. The physical therapist would come out and either do the therapy at school or she'd take me home. But Mom would be there every night to make sure I did whatever the physical therapist had said to do. And sometimes I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do them, you know, sometimes. And so she said, you better do it or your back is going to get as bad as my back. And that would scare the living daylights out of me because she didn't have a chance to have any physical therapy. So I'd get in there and do my exercises. And she was very dependable. She left the notes, like I said. Another thing about her hobbies, she loved plants, and she was always starting plants in the kitchen window, like from a potato or something, and she took really good care of them. And she used to work in the yard, and her and I used to work in the yard together a lot. We'd mow and weed and plant things, and we'd talk and feel very close together, and it was just us two, and that was one good memory that I have. And also, the way we paid our tuition at Armona Academy was we grew cotton, and we'd have to chop cotton and keep up the crop, you know, and then we'd sell the whole crop to the gin and give the money to the school. They didn't get paid every month, but they got paid every year. And that would take care of all of our tuition for all 4 of us kids. But she would work side by side with us, you know, and so that was, she didn't just send us out there and say, well, it's your job, you know, do it. And she let us have friends overnight on the weekends, or we'd get to go to their place, so we got a lot of socialization. And all of our friends just really, really loved her because she was just so much fun, and she would make them feel important and everything. And we had to take turns who got the birthday party that year, but it was always something special. And all through my life, she had a good sense of humor, and she was a good hostess to other people, but she always gave eye contact and dropped everything to listen if I had something to say to her. And she'd tell me right from wrong and stuff and give me advice. And she taught us how to forgive each other for things that we had done wrong to each other. And it became a habit for her right before we'd go to bed each night. So we had to run around to each other of the kids and go to each one and say, did I do anything wrong to you today? Please forgive me if I did. I'm sorry. Usually we hadn't done too much wrong, and so it got to be routine. We'd just rush through it and say, yeah, I forgive you, yeah, I forgive you. But it was a great habit because in your adult life it comes in real handy too when people bug you. So everybody always gotten forgiven. Nobody ever said no. And she'd watch us too to make sure that we did it. You know, she followed through. She was very thorough. And she helped me in my adult life too. Well, when I was in college, I had to work, 20 hours a week or so, besides taking a full-time load. But all that money went to my tuition. So I didn't really make any money to get like shampoo and things like that. And she would always come up with all that, even though she had to take on extra jobs to do it. And when we were in high school, she'd take on extra jobs too. She'd make personal sacrifices like do without the latest new underwear or shoes or outfits because she would be saving her money so we could go on special trips on the bus, whether it was a band trip or just a high school outing. And I remember that about her. And anytime I'd get a broken heart or anything like that, she always was there for me to lean on her shoulder and cry and give me advice. And she'd always say, well, don't write anything down to a guy that you don't want presented in a court of law. And I thought, oh, come on. As sometimes later on is when you recognize that somebody's telling you the truth and you realize it because you've lived longer and had experience. And then she was there for me when Jay was a baby. We went out there, I guess, when Jay was about a month old or something. And those guys would help me with my midnight feedings and stuff. They'd get up and she'd be sitting there in the rocking chair, rocking Jay and patting, singing to him and all that. And they helped me so much. And her little poodle used to sit right under Jay's bassinet, which was right next to the bed, so I could see every time he breathed or just make sure nothing was wrong, And the little poodle dog would sit right under the bassinet, and whenever he heard us, woof, woof, he was protective of that baby. And when I was in graduate school, I took those classes that used to last three hours long each. She would come up and take care of Jay while I went to class. And once in a while she couldn't make it, and I'd have to take him to class with me. I had a backpack, and he used to sit in there. And they all thought he was so cute because I'd be listening to the lectures, and then all of a sudden he'd go, ooh, or make some cute little noise, and they'd all laugh. I thought that was so adorable. And sometimes I'd have to take him out and play with him outside, but I had my tape recorder there. And then what she did was, she did that, and she was very, very faithful at it. And then I wanted him to go out there, we wanted to go out, and so I could raise him in the country, okay, I'll hurry up. So he could have the farm experience and learn about animals and stuff like that. And so those were just a few experiences. And later on in life, when our house burned down on the farm and we moved up to Sacramento, Mom and Don let me stay with them for a while till I could get my own place and get a job or get in school or get something going, which didn't take me very long, but they were still kind. And earlier in life, she would, one thing I really remember is that after she'd had a hard day raising us, she would be kneeling at the side of her bed with tears going down her cheeks. And I knew that she was praying for us kids that she could do the best job of what God wanted her to do. And then later on in life, she took all of us girls to our first strip club. So I probably have more to say, but thank you.
It's like, oh my goodness, I totally forgot about that. We all dressed up in crazy outfits. We had one of the pictures on here. Totally forgot about that. Wild days. Well, I'm Lena, as most of you know. I'm the firstborn daughter and the oldest child. I've been reflecting on the impact my mom has had on my life and all the things that I've learned from her. She taught me to love Jesus. From the time I was a toddler, she taught me and my siblings about the love of Jesus. She would read Bible stories to us every night and taught us how to pray. She taught me about sharing. When I was 11, she suggested we give some of our toys to needy boys and girls. And I remembered being totally appalled at the idea of giving up some of my belongings and giving it to somebody else. Well, that was the first lesson I had in generosity. She taught me about self-sufficiency. When I was young, she would sew dresses for me and later taught me the basics of sewing. This served me well. When I was in high school, I adjusted a lot of hand-me-downs. And when I was in college, I made some of my own clothing. And then later on, when my Melody and Charmin were little, I made clothing for them as well, and that got passed on to all the cousins, so it got some good use. She taught me to marry a man who likes to cook. One thing that was passed on to me is not loving to cook. I unfortunately passed that on to Melody and Charmin. However, one of her great granddaughters does like to cook, so the chain of the non-cooks has been broken. She taught me how to be a good person. She was very intentional in teaching me right from wrong, how to express a differing opinion respectfully, how to accept consequences of my actions, how to be honest, how to be responsible. As the oldest of 4 children, a lot of responsibility came my way, and I guess that's probably how I learned to be bossy. She taught me to be resilient. Mom was there for me during my greatest heartbreaks and some of my greatest joys. She taught me that heartbreak can later be turned into joy and that there is always hope for a better tomorrow. Many times I have told her how grateful I have been to her for her parenting when I was young and for her friendship when I was an adult. She taught me how to be a mom through her own example. Mom didn't put up with any sass or back talk from us kids. She always insisted that we be respectful to adults. She taught me the importance of an education. Education was important to her, and there was no question about whether or not we were going to go to college. She told me that I needed to have a career so that if I ever found myself alone, that I could be able to support myself and my children. She told me that I should be an independent woman and be with a man not because I was financially dependent on him, but because I wanted to be with him. She taught me about the cycle of life. One of my favorite conversations with my mom was about 2 months before her death. We were talking about books and various authors and things that we had read. She had developed macular degeneration and was no longer able to see to read. So in her last few days, I took short stories to her to read to her. She smiled when I reminded her of the irony of me reading her a bedtime story. She taught me to have faith that we will meet again. I had been dreading the moment I would have to say goodbye to her. She was an amazing mom. I feel so blessed that I got to be her daughter. I take comfort in the fact that we will see her again on resurrection morning. Her name is written in the book of life and is written in the palm of the Creator. Now he says to her, "Well done, Dottie. You have been a good and faithful servant. Now enter into the joy of the Lord."
So we're going to go ahead and take a lunch break because there is food available for everybody. And if you still want to say something, we'll get settled after eating. And then anybody who wants to say something, the old bags or anybody else wants to say something, we'll open the mic back up. So please go ahead and join us for lunch.
Dottie requested for her funeral to have the song that just got done playing.
Can I have this dance?
Near I got to the, that's the one she requested. She wrote a little note. Told me. I'll always remember the song that we played first time we danced, and I knew as we strolled together, I knew forever you're all I'll ever need. Could I have this dance for the rest of my life? You be my partner every night, and we're together, and you so right. Could I have this dance for the rest of my life? No. I'll always remember that magic moment I held you as we strolled together. I knew forever you're all I'll ever need. Could I have this dance for the rest of my life? Would you be my partner every night? When we're together, it seems so right. Could I have this dance for the rest of my life? Could I have this dance for the rest of my That's one of the songs I sang for her when she passed away.
All right, so we're going to open up the mic for anybody who has decided, you know what, I do want to say something. And one of those little people is Bobby. Great, fantastic grandson. Here you go.
So we all knew Dorothy. I know her as my great-grandma. She passed. She died, letting us all know that it was time for her to go. But when my mom took me to go visit her in the hospital, she wasn't the same. She was dying. Her body was telling her that it was time to go. God wanted her to go, and it was just time. It was the time for her to go, and she didn't recognize me or me and my mom and my sister, my stepsister. She didn't recognize us, so that was really sad. And she even admitted that she wanted to go, but at least we know that she's happy, and we can live a good life knowing that she's up there having a good time watching over us. And we all loved her. And, you know, Don, you were a lucky man to have her. I'm just gonna say that. We were all lucky to know her, and that's what I'm gonna try to tell you. We were super lucky to know her, and she'll always be in our heart. So as long as we can, we've had lots of memories with her, but one memory that I remember was I was in her room trying to get up on her bed, and I was a baby, and I was throwing a fit because I was too small. I couldn't get up on the bed, but she made us all happy, and she kind of opened up my mind to going into the 4-H club, and she kind of opened up my mind, and I've heard so many stories, and I've seen so many pictures, and yeah.
Is there anybody else who wants to come and say anything? You want to? Okay. Are you part of the Old Bags Club? I'm one of the old. Oh, the Old Bags. Good. Yay. Representation.
Yeah, I feel like I should say something. The Old Bags, for those of you that don't know, they're Terry and 6 others. There's 7 of us, and we all grew up together and have continued to be great friends all of our lives. Had children and got married at the same time, and been through a lot of life changes together. So I always felt like we all had each other growing up, but we all sort of had 7 moms as well, which was nice. And I remember that as a good memory, because sometimes our own parents wouldn't be that indulgent, but sometimes the other parents would be. So I have usually we lived in the middle of nowhere, as did you guys, in the middle of farmland, and so every Sabbath afternoon, it seemed, my memories of being a kid is every Sabbath afternoon, either your family was at our house, or we were at your house playing, and the rope swing on the oak tree was mentioned.
The battery died.
Oh, okay. There you go. Okay. The rope swing on the oak tree was mentioned earlier by Jay, and I remember that swing too, being at your house and on the swing. And so I don't remember you being so much of it, Lena, but certainly Diane and Terry and Billy and myself and my brother, all of us would get up to all kinds of antics when we were left on our own. And I remember I was convinced that I was going to marry Billy someday. And I and I had told my mother, I said, I'm going to marry Billy someday. And I can remember she said to me, you'll change your mind. I know you'll change your mind. But I'm just going to share one funny thing that sticks in my mind is when we would get together, we were always doing these crazy things. Diane would be playing on the piano songs, and then I can remember we would get on, one time we got on the bed, and I think it was at your house, and all of us were jumping up and down on the bed and singing at the top of our lungs, how dry I am, how wet I'll be if I don't find the bathroom key. So, and the parents were always indulgent of our craziness. But I just wanted to say that, yeah, it was nice growing up in a kind of community, a small community like that, where we had each other and we had lots of parents, you know. And your mom was part of that, whole part of that world that we lived in. Thanks.
Good afternoon out to all of you. My name is Carolyn Gandy, and I'm not one of the old bags of Terry's friends. I would consider her part of the new bags, but but Terry and I have actually known each other 30 years, and I'm an RN like Terry. And this has been the most wonderful and best memorial I've ever attended. And it was sort of hard for me to come today because, like Terry, I've also lost my mom. But I can tell you, Dottie, as you guys refer to her, I always called her by her last name. She was very embracing and very kind to me, and always had nice things to say because I've been to several of the weddings and stuff. But Dawn, I reach out to you, and I so admire you that your love of 35 years. My husband and I just recently celebrated our 25th anniversary, so I wish, and I hope that we can continue our love like you and Dottie had for your 35 years.
Well, I guess I've been designated to bring this party to a close and this celebration. Anyway, I did pretty good reading without crying, but it's catching up. Anyway, I appreciate you guys all coming and sharing in the joy of remembering my mom and the blessing that she's been to all of us. So if anybody has anything else they want to say, this is an opportunity. If not, we'll just kind of dismiss, and there's dessert and coffee, I think, still back there. Oh, okay, there's dessert anyway. I think. So anyway, if you want to take pictures, but we'll just kind of wrap things up now and go on with our life just with fond memories of Dorothy.
Thank you. Plant a tree, name it Dottie.